I am Gregory, and this is Pensane. On the table, we have the pen and ink combinations for the second week of my self-imposed 31 pens, 31 inks, 31 days challenge. So let's get right into it. First up, we have the Kaweco Lilliput with Kaweco Smoky Gray. Then we have the Kaweco Skyline Sport with Jinhao Blue. The Lamy Logo with Lamy Blue. The Lamy Safari with Noodler's X Feather. The Unusual Mahjong X1 with Kaweco Caramel Brown. One of my favorite brands, Monteverde. We have Monteverde Innova, and this is actually the Formula M. It wouldn't fit on there. And that is loaded with Conklin Denim Blue. And the last one is Monteverde Laguna with Visconti Red. So let's look at the initial scores and kind of go through them real quick. All right, so the Kaweco Lilliput, I want to like that pen more. I gave it an 8, and I'm going to do a review of this pen. Posting it's you screw it on to post, and it's very, very fiddly, especially compared to sort of the, there's another brand called D-Like that has kind of a rip-off of this pen, but there's posts much more easily. So that was kind of disappointing, but it's still a very good pen, especially once I put a double broad nib in it. And that the ink there is one of my favorite grays, Kaweco Smoky Gray, so that gets a 10. Next up, we have the Kaweco Skyline Sport. This originally had the double broad nib in it, but I wanted to put a 1.1 stub in it, and it's a much better pen with the stub nib. So it probably was scored a lot lower, because honestly, Kaweco Sports, they feel kind of cheap. I hate to say that, but they have all these fun colors, but they do feel kind of cheap. But the reality is, it's actually a well-made pen. I will say that. But we got an 8 there, especially with that stub nib. Jinhao Blue, I just had a spare cartridge of Jinhao Blue laying around, and those work well in the Kaweco Sports. So I stuck that in there. It's a nice, solid blue ink, leaning a little bit towards the dark side. You get a tiny bit of shading, not much. And yeah, so it was a good solid 8. The Lamy logo really caught me by surprise. I have yet to find a perfect Lamy nib. But this broad nib is the closest I've gotten so far. So that got it up to a 9. The ink, I don't know, it looks a little washed out to me. And actually, after I did the score, I noticed it actually does have a little bit of sheen to it. I don't know if it's red or purple. I think it's a red sheen. There's a little bit in the writing sample here, but you probably won't be able to see it. Oh my. The Lamy Safaris are the bane of my existence. I've tried a couple of them with a few different nibs, and they're just not a pleasing pen to write with. I believe this is the fine nib, and the ink did not help any, but it's first of all, it's a big clunky pen, kind of odd and top heavy, with almost a comical clip. So I guess I just really don't like the look of the Lamy Safari, and I know they're hugely popular, but I just, yeah. I think the Lamy logo is a much better pen. Looks way better. Yeah. Anyway, and then the Noodler's X Feather ink gets a 4 because I was having drying issues with it, where it, in some parts, it just was not drying. So like I would come back, maybe a half hour later and wipe it, and it would smear, and yeah. And plus, I suspect it's a dry ink. At least that's the feeling I got in the Lamy Safari. A very fun pen. And I'm gonna do a review of this one as well, because it's quite unique. I think it could entirely be a ripoff of some pen that I'm unaware of, but it seems very unique to me. It's a retractable pen, but the nib always dries out. And again, I'll go over that in my full review of it. So unfortunately, I ended up getting a 6. Plus, some of the design choices on the pen make it look kind of cheap. The ink, however, Kaweco Caramel Brown, is one of my favorites. A very dark brown, shading from dark brown to almost black. So I love that one. I'm really impressed by Kaweco inks, actually. All right, then we have the Monteverde Innova Formula M. My goodness, that pen is a gusher, and that is a broad line. You see, this is broad, and this is double broad, and this is more broad than the double broad. So, and that, I have a lot of experience with Monteverdes, and that's kind of unusual. So I don't know if the ink is playing a role in that, but very good pen, but it almost always skips just a little bit right when I first start writing with it. So that's unfortunate. And the ink is Konkan Denim Blue, which is a very good ink, but I have trouble seeing blue in there. It's basically a dark gray ink. Cool, on the cool side, definitely. So I can see the blue coming in there, but it is really not a blue ink. Yeah. And then lastly, we have the Monteverde Laguna. It's a really fun pen. It's kind of odd that it has a bamboo theme, as SBRE Brown pointed out. It doesn't really make sense. But I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. It has a little bit of girth to it, so that's good. I did have some initial nib issues, which is unusual for Monteverde in my experience. So I did a little work on it, not with the proper tools, and I ended up with like paper fibers stuck between the tines. However, that actually fixed the problem I was having, so I can't complain entirely, but I have since picked up a pen maintenance kit from Goulet, so I hope to be working on this pen and get the flow going better. You see it'll start out pretty good, and then the ink stops flowing as well, and then all of a sudden it'll kind of gush out again. And see, there's still gushing, and then it starts getting lighter again. And that's not like shading, that's like ink flow. So, because I love shading. So for that reason, it gets an 8. And then Visconti Red, that might be my favorite red ink right now. I'm not entirely sure, but it's pretty darn close to it. In the shading, my fear of shading red inks is that there's gonna be a lot of pink. There's some pinkness there, but it's like it looks more like a washed out red than pink, if that makes sense. So I love that ink. Yeah. So let's look at the actual scores here. The scores for the combos. So we have the Kaweco Lilliput with the Kaweco Smoky Gray gets an 18. Kaweco Skyline Sport with Jinhao Blue gets a 16. The Lamy Logo with Lamy Blue gets a 16. The Lamy Safari with Noodler's X Feather gets a 9, the lowest score yet. The Mahjong X1 with Kaweco Caramel Brown gets 15. The Monteverde Innova Formula M with Conklin Denim Blue gets a 15. And the Monteverde Laguna with Visconti Red gets a 17. And I'll just remind you, before I put these in order, that in the event of a tie, the tiebreaker is the pen score. So for example, in this case, these are both 15. The pen here is 8. The pen here is 6. So this gets the higher score. Okay, so with that, these are the rankings. So in 7th place, of course, we have the Lamy Safari with Noodler's X Feather. In 6th, we have the Mahjong X1 with Kaweco Caramel Brown. In 5th, we have the Monteverde Innova Formula M with Conklin Denim Blue. 4th, we have the Kaweco Skyline Sport with Jinhao Blue. 3rd, we have the Lamy Logo with Lamy Blue. 2nd, we have the Monteverde Laguna with Visconti Red. And in 1st place, I was not expecting this. In 1st place, we have the Kaweco Lilliput with Kaweco Smoky Gray. Honestly, I thought the Innova would do a lot better. I thought that would be much higher up. And honestly, I thought the top pen might be the Lamy Logo, but it's the ink that kind of brings it down for me. I guess I like a little deeper blue ink, so that the ink score kind of brought that down. But there you go. Those are the pen and ink combinations for the 2nd week of my self-imposed 31 pens, 31 inks, 31 days challenge. And I hope you'll keep following me along. And of course, you can watch the shorts on the channel where I'm showcasing writing with the pens every day. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.